Hello, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about candles and my weird and fun experiences with them. Let's see how that went. Hey, so when I was a wee little youngling, I was freaking obsessed with candles, and the idea of being able to create a new candle from an old one got me hooked onto the hobby. I remember watching countless videos via YouTube on people making these epic looking candles out of soda bottles, which, being a kid, was very intriguing. So after collecting enough wax from old candles, I was ready to create my own. The only problem I ran into is I didn't have a proper wick, so I used this twine for the wick instead. The wick in a candle is the string that burns, you know? Yay. I got out all of the materials needed and went to work. For like 3 hours. What I had to do first was melt the wax. I didn't have much, just a few chunks, but it would do for the first candle. But I couldn't just melt the wax in a pot, because then the wax might burn and then catch on fire. So one of the techniques was to pour a layer of water into a small pot, then take an empty can, like this one, put the wax you want to melt into the can, and then put the can into the water that is in the pot. Put the pot on the stove and then wait for the wax in the can to melt. Pretty easy, right? Well, soon I came across a little problem. The water started boiling too much, which was throwing around the already fairly liquid wax. So some got all over the stove and into the pot. That sure was fun to clean up. So in order to stop the can from bouncing everywhere, I had to hold the can down. Luckily I didn't grab it with my bare hands, 'cause I'm smart. I used an oven mitt, and got wax all over it. Then I put the pot's lid on top of the can. The can was taller than the pot, so I had to balance the lid on the can, and by default it fell more than it should have, which wasn't supposed to happen, because my plan was completely flawless. Then I prepared the wick by tying the twine I was using as a wick onto a chopstick, and eventually lowering the string onto the tiny jar I was using. After all the trouble, it was time. I was in the last stretch. Just pour the wax and the candle will be complete. Wax was everywhere. It took so long to clean it up, but at least the candle was completed. So I started cleaning everything up while I waited for it to solidify. But there was one thing I had overlooked. So you know when you apply heat to an object, and the molecules start moving around and taking up more space? Yeah, same thing with the wax. And instead of the candle seeming less full when it cooled, it instead creates a giant hole in the middle. Probably because the wax near the edges of the candle and the wick solidified first. So then it was like a rubber band that got stretched and frozen into place. But I couldn't fix it because I had no more wax. And I didn't want to clean all of the wax mess up again. So I left it as is. Even though it didn't have a scent to it, I ended up giving that candle to a friend that was moving away. Just as a little goodbye gift, you know what I mean? No you don't, moving on. Time comes to where I make another candle. This time I was wanting to make one of those pillar candles that weren't in a jar, but just a pillar. And this could be done by replacing the jar with an empty toilet paper roll. I had those, right? So I went to work. Rinse and repeat all that happened with the last candle, except when I poured the wax into the paper roll, the wax spilled out of the bottom. Great. Luckily I hadn't used all of the wax, but now I had to find a way to clean it up before the wax solidified. I don't remember how I did that, but when I went to pour the wax again, using a different paper roll because the last one was ruined, I approached it differently. I put a roll on a small plate and put some ice around the bottom edges, so the wax would pretty much instantly solidify, preventing any wax from getting out. Pretty smart if I say so myself. Once that candle was finished, it was looking pretty good. Except back then, I didn't bother trying to give the candle different colors or smells, so it looked like a weird reddish color with no smell. I gave this one to my mom, and she still has it.
Hello Maple the cat. So I'm going to show you the candle. My mom still kept it after all these years, which makes me go yes. We were living in Okinawa at the time, so she put it in a jar with sand from the beach. Thanks, Mom.
A few months go by and my siblings and I are left with a babysitter while my parents went on a small trip or something. I got extremely bored, so I asked the babysitter if I could look up some candle making. 'Cause that's what kids do when they're bored. She said yes, 'cause she was the type of babysitter that would chill on her phone and stuff. So I went ahead and looked for new candle making techniques. I found one that had been used for a very long time. It was used to make the really tall but thin candles, and I wanted one. There was only one roadblock: the babysitter. "Hey, can I make a candle? My parents let me make them a lot." She looks at me, obviously preparing for the least wanted answer. "Yeah, sure, whatever." Okay, that was easy. Time to go to work. This time I set up the wax melting station thing the same, but this time I just used a wick, and what I was supposed to do was dip the wick into the wax, wait for it to cool and mostly solidify, then dip it in again. Do that over and over until it gets thick enough. But my child brain decided that it was better to speed up the process a bit. Instead of waiting for the wax to cool, I decided to dip the wick into cold water after I dip it in the wax. Genius, right?
Haha, no it was not.
The rapid cooling of the wax was too much for it to handle, so the candle ended up being very brittle, and therefore I couldn't use it. And when you split the candle open, you could see that the wax layers of the candle had peeled apart because of the cold water. Another time, my little brother and I had to go over to someone else's house to stay a few nights because my parents went on a longer trip, and me being me, I asked if I could make a candle. My parents must have told them about my liking to candle making because they were completely fine with it. I wanted to make a giant candle for when my parents got back, so I went for the toilet paper roll technique, but bigger. So I used a paper towel roll, but I didn't want to get out all the gear that I usually needed, so I decided to melt the candles that they didn't want by leaving them lit and then pouring the wax into the paper towel roll. So I did just that. When one of the candles had enough wax to use for the first segment of the giant candle, I used the ice technique like last time, because I didn't want to go through that again, no siree. So I get the first layer done. Later, the evening comes, and the people watching my brother and I let me choose what movies I could watch, and basically stay up all night watching movies. I watched all of the Narnia Chronicles on the first night, and all of the Harry Potter movies, except the last two, on the second night. And while I watched the movies, I would gradually fill up the candle. Later, once the candle was completely filled up, I took it out of the paper towel roll and tried to light it. Nothing. It couldn't hold a flame. After a bit of pondering, I found out why. Because I hadn't brought my usual twine that I used as wicks for my other candles, I used yarn instead. And, well, now I know that yarn is a terrible wick supplement. So I ended up bringing this multicolored candle home that I couldn't use. But I took the wick out by breaking the candle multiple times and then melting the old chunks, and then redoing the whole thing. But this time with my twine as a wick supplement. But things didn't go as planned. Why me? Why? Explain. Because I remelted all of the chunks together, I ended up making this weird grayish brownish blue candle. That didn't smell like anything. I forgot what happened to that candle, but I made it, and yay. A few more years pass. In between then I make quite a few more candles, and they all have their own unique stories and fails, but I can't fit all of them into one video. Also, I forgot most of them, so there's that as well.
Hey all y'all, I'm going to show you guys what I do to make a candle, so yay, enjoy the video.
Alright, so first I'm going to show you guys what materials you'll need. You'll need colored crayons. I used lavender to scent the candle. I made this wick out of an already used base. And some wax. The jar that the candle will dwell in. And a pot with water. And a can that will be filled with wax and placed in the pot. First, you need to start heating the water. Then chuck in the wax and whatever colored crayons you need into the can that is in the pot. Then you wait until all the wax is melted. No, stop it, stop, take it off, nope, oh my gosh, bad mistake. Boy, a little bit later. Now that like a little bit of the wax is melted, I can put in a small layer of wax in order to secure the wick base, so that way it doesn't move to the side or something while I'm filling up the rest of the candle. As you can see, I used a chopstick to hold the wick in place while I poured in the wax to secure it. Later, once again, I stirred in some scented oils, and now that more stuff is melted, I can fill up a bit more of the candle. Now it's time to chop some wax so it can fit in jar. Something fell.
That was a spoon.
I'm not putting that back on. Sheesh. I repeated the previous process over and over again until I built up quite a few layers, and I shaded it a little bit. This is the result before everything solidifies completely. It's looking pretty good, but there would definitely be the rubber band effect. Much later again. So I completed the rest of the candle. It's pretty cool. And I cleaned up everything while I was waiting for it to solidify. And candles do this all the time, at least with my experiences. Make a little hole. Like oof. So that's not good. So what I'm doing is basically melting some white candles, and I still have the scent stuff. I'm basically kind of just gonna pour it in and drop a scent thing. And it's gonna be kind of topped off with white. So it'll look pretty cool, I think. I know it looks pretty nice. Pretty nice and juicy. So, this is the finished product, pretty much. To top it off, all these little baby candles sacrifice their lives. This one's still alive. Alright then. But has a nice top layer of white and this purple shade thing. I'm gonna turn off the light, see if that helps. Ooh, shiny. Yeah, I like it, and it smells good. Smells like lavender, and on the bottle thing, I'm just gonna read it to you. Blend of lavender, tangerine, bergamot, frankincense. Oh, cool. And chimerdaverdoo. Had no idea how to say those. But anyway, this is the finished product. I wiped it off and stuff, and the wax is mostly cleaned off. I totally meant to do that. But anyway, I'm gonna pick that up. Don't worry, you survived. Oh, it's dented. Of course it's dented. I yeeted it at the wall. But yeah. Thank you for watching my candle video thing. Well everyone, thank you for watching this video. These videos are super fun to make even though they take a long time. Sorry about that. And with that, that about wraps it up for me. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, be sure to comment, and feel free to subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Now go and make a candle or something, I don't know.